Hi, Olivia. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. We were talking just before I pressed the record button that you've already had a training session this morning, and then you're going to have a bit more of a training session this afternoon. Is that what it's been like since the pandemic? You're having to do at least 2 training sessions a day to maintain your fitness?
Yeah, I just kind of try and do at least 2 a day. I still had exams online, but through uni. So when I was revising for those, I'd try and get up quite early and do my session before I started revising, and then try and get a good chunk of work in, and then maybe go for a cycle when we couldn't play tennis, and then when we could, go and play tennis in the afternoon, and yeah, stuff like that.
Sounds very hectic. So are you quite an organised person? Because you've talked about there that you've been studying for exams as well while you've been at university.
Yeah, I like to think I'm organised. I think I've had to adapt to working at home. I've never really revised at home before. I try and revise at school or libraries, or quite a lot of my tennis club actually. So yeah, adapting to revising at home, especially with my parents both working in the same office as me, has been interesting. But we've made it work, and yeah, I think I've enjoyed it. So.
And what's it been like to actually get back out on court, because now the lockdown restrictions have been lifted a little bit?
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to hit a ball and see like my friends that I haven't seen for a while. A lot of people that I know from this area are back from America for university there playing tennis. So it's been nice to catch up and just play tennis with them.
You mentioned about being at university. You're studying mathematics, is that right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say to you now, Olivia, mathematics is my least favourite subject of all time. I really struggled with it at school. I had to take my GCSE in maths like twice just to get a C grade. What is it about numbers that you love so much?
I'm not really sure. I've always wanted to do a maths degree. I've never really had anything else in my mind. And I just really like the problem solving aspect of questions, and how you can kind of think laterally, and there's so many different ways to approach problems, and how it all kind of links together at like different areas of mathematics. I'm really seeing that now doing my degree.
In what way?
So kind of areas like geometry and algebra, and how all the proofs and across time people have like used different areas to kind of prove their own theorems and things like that.
I find numbers really stressful, and I work for myself, so I'm having to, maintain a budget and submit my figures to my accountant at least once a month. I feel really stressed looking at figures. I'm a bit more comfortable with it now, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I admire you, the fact that you love numbers. Where does it, I mean, the decision to do a degree in maths, where do you want that to take you?
I'm thinking of going into kind of being an actuary or a trader, like banking, that kind of sector. But yeah, I really like studying maths, and I geared my A levels all to go towards maths and physics and that kind of area. And I just did as many maths qualifications as I possibly could. And yeah, I've just really, really enjoyed it. I couldn't imagine not doing like maths with my sport. I quite like the balance of having something for my brain, and then something for like my body and my health, and being busy with both is really, really fun.
One could argue, I guess, that maths could be integrated in tennis, because a lot of it now is about number crunching, looking at the percentage of first serve serves, things like that.
Yeah.
When you've played matches, do you look at your figures and look at the areas that you could improve by using your mathematical brain?
Yeah, I like to think I kind of logically dissect matches. So I've got a camera that if I can record matches, I will, and then I'll go back through and kind of chart the matches. So I'll go through and say, okay, I've like mark on an unforced error or a winner or something like that, and then I kind of tally up the stats at the end and see where I was doing well and where I wasn't, and then I take that back to my coach, and he'd give me something to work on in lessons.
And you teach maths as well, is that right?
Yeah, I've been tutoring for over 2 years now, and I really like kind of getting other people, maybe who don't like maths so much, to kind of enjoy it a bit more. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how different people's brains work, because some people just really like are naturally kind of, they love it and they can see how to do problems, and some people, they just need to take a different route. But I really believe that everyone can do maths to a good standard if they just kind of work out like what works for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, I was thinking you should offer that, you know, what you do in terms of breaking down the percentages and things like that to tennis players on the tour, like being offered that as a service kind of thing, because I'm sure they'd really appreciate that, because it's not just about, you know, how hard you hit a serve now, it's the angle of the serve that's important, it's the way that you serve that's important. And I find it fascinating that maths can be incorporated into that.
Yeah, it's very much a big part of sport now. I think in any sport, like the footballers have a massive team of statisticians that just look basically at numbers and then feed that back to the coaches, and that's a massive part of how they decide what to work on in training.
You mentioned about football. I think that's a lovely segue. So let's start at the beginning of your football journey, so to speak, because you did start out playing football as a young 7-year-old, and your mum made the switch to tennis. Can I ask, are you still an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, I still am. My dad and my brother and his side of the family are more into it than me, but I do try and watch when I can, yeah.
Send my support. I'm fully behind your brother and your dad, because I'm a gooner too. It's been a tough season for sure. But anyway, let's talk about you. So you started out playing football, as I mentioned, and then your mum made the switch to tennis for you. What is it about tennis that you love so much?
Well, I just kind of, when I was younger, my mum said I was always, when I had tennis, my bag was by the door, I was ready to go like half an hour early, and she just saw that I liked it much better than other sports. And when I was younger, she took me to everything. I did ballet, I think, which I hated, like netball, basketball, football, swimming, anything. And I did really like playing lots of different sports, and I still enjoyed football. I did football and swimming and tennis together till I was about 11, and then each one kind of wanted more of my time. So my parents, because they were getting up really early to take me to swimming and then taking me after school to tennis and football, they were like, pick one, otherwise we can't carry on. I don't know how you're coping. And yeah, tennis was always going to be my choice, definitely.
And did you watch it on TV as a child as well when Wimbledon came on the telly?
Yeah, I watched quite a lot. I remember going to Wimbledon when I was just starting to play, so I was about 7 or 8, and it was just such a good day out. I think I just saw Sharapova on centre court, so that was, yeah, amazing.
Amazing. And when did you realise, actually, this is a career for Olivia French?
Well, I played my first few tournaments when I was about 10, 11, and then I played my first national event when I was 12, and having that experience of playing people from all over the country and like getting to travel a lot more, I just really enjoyed the competition and the competitive aspects of matches, and just leaving out all your best tennis that you can on the day, and pushing yourself, and I really like that.
Are you the type of person who's fairly, should I say, quiet off the court, but when you're on the court, a different Olivia French comes out? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think you kind of have to be, because on court it's kind of, you have to put on a persona, because if you're quite quiet, people will kind of, because it's like one-on-one, it's very, sorry, I'm looking for the word, it's very competitive, and you want to beat each other, so you have to big yourself up, you have to look more confident than maybe you are.
How do you mentally prepare before you step out on the court for a match?
So I like to do a lot of visualization. It's definitely something I've done a lot more of in the last couple of years, and just really zone into how I want to play the match, and really kind of, even though I'm not actually doing the movements, kind of feel what it's like to be out on that court in that situation, because every match presents different challenges, whether it be where you're playing, like maybe on a bigger court with more people watching, or maybe you've been banished to a far court and there's holes in it, and you know you're going to get a lot of bad bounces and that kind of thing. So it's just trying to best prepare yourself for a lot of unknowns that you're walking out into.
And then playing in front of crowds as well is different. Obviously, it's different. Sometimes you're playing in front of a small crowd, and sometimes you're playing in front of a big crowd. Are you the type of player who can adapt to that you're able to play in front of a handful of people, but then sometimes you need to play in front of a massive crowd as well? Like, can you adapt to that?
I've definitely got better at it from when I was younger. I would get very, very nervous when I was younger, and it's called getting tight, and you kind of push your shots, and it's been a challenge to try and overcome that. And I think it's definitely helped, not just on the court kind of overcome that, but in different areas of life, like public speaking and in exams, being able to cope with that kind of pressure. I think it's definitely helped there too.
How do you assess your season up until the point of the coronavirus pandemic pretty much suspending everything? How would you assess your season?
I think it's gone pretty well. I think since I've been at Durham, I've improved a lot, and I've had like a lot of good players to train against. And we've pretty much finished all our matches, because in Bucks, so the British University leagues, we play all our matches in the winter. So we'd actually finished our league season, and in the summer we'd have had the chance to compete individually, which obviously we can't now. And yeah, we had some good results. So we made the semis of the National Cup, which was really good, and we had some close matches in that. One of them we went on a shootout, so it was kind of like a tie break to 10. It's really, really tight. So yeah, it was good to get through that.
That sounds incredibly intense as well, when it's a tie break to 10, because you just don't know which way it's going to go. How do you control your nerves?
So it's just about taking it one point at a time, one shot at a time, because if you look at it in like small chunks, it's not actually a big deal. At the end of the day, you're on a tennis court, and it's not like life or death. So if you just kind of break it down into small, like one shot at a time, have a clear focus in your mind, then you can block out all the external pressure.
You mentioned about being at Durham University. Why did you decide to study there?
It's just a really good place for tennis and maths, so it was like the perfect choice for me, really. And the place itself is so nice. So where my room is, it overlooks the cathedral, so I'd have like the bells and stuff, and yeah, all the people there are amazing. Like, I've got some really, really close friends, like from my course, and also it's a college system, so we're all assigned a college, and so yeah, a lot of my close friends are from college, and then also from tennis, so I've got quite a nice mix.
You didn't fancy going abroad? Because some of your comrades that I've spoken to, some have gone to the States, some have gone to Spain and France. You didn't fancy that? Why is that?
So I definitely did look at America when I was kind of 15, 16. But because I wanted to do maths, and the degrees over in America work a bit differently, so they're quite general for the first 2 years, and then you can kind of specialise a bit more, but it's quite hard to just do one thing. They're much more about doing like a lot of different things, and I just really wanted to get started of like studying maths and specialising in that, really. So like my decision to go to stay in the UK was based on that.
And what is student life like at Durham University?
It's very busy. When
Socially?
I come back, yeah, socially, and like I have a lot of contact hours, so a lot of lecture time and tutorials and that kind of thing, and then training as well. So my day would kind of start at 5:45 most days, and then I'd have 2 hours of training, and then between 6 to 8 hours of like maths, and then I'd come back in the evening and try and spend some time with friends and tutor, and then we'd have like track and weights and stuff. So I was always doing something.
And now that we know that, as I mentioned earlier, the lockdown has been eased a little bit, and a lot of people that I know that work within tennis have gone back out, obviously under social distancing guidelines. It must be a good feeling to know that you can get back out on the court and do some proper hitting sessions after a period of time.
Yeah, it's so nice, because it's the thing that I love to do the most. So just to be able to go and play and kind of, yeah, not when I haven't been able to for ages is so good.
So in all seriousness, there is this dilemma now, because we've got the US Open I know we're in June and the US Open's not till August, but it's going to be coming upon us fairly soon.
Yeah.
And there's been discussions, as I'm sure you've seen over the last few days, about how they're going to manage that. It's been the one interesting thing that I've noted is that some of the top players are concerned about the number of people that they can bring with them as part of their entourage, so their coaches, their fitness coaches, their physios and agent and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts around that?
I think it is really difficult, especially for the top players who have quite big teams around them now, and it's something that they're used to, and it's how they play their best. So they've surrounded themselves with people that they trust and know help them play better. So I think for those players, it's going to be a big change to kind of travel with a smaller amount of people. But then I think for kind of the lower ranked players, it's not something that they're not used to. I know a lot of people have to travel alone, especially not people who are playing at the US Open necessarily, but lower down, like a lot of people just don't have the money to pay a traveling coach. So it might kind of maybe fair out that a little bit. Like some of the lower ranked players will have the same kind of resources as some of the higher ranked players for maybe that one tournament. So they might see some upsets maybe.
No, I agree, and I think it's really going to be interesting to see how this plays out, really, because the other side of it as well, that if it is played behind closed doors, that's going to be quite a strange experience for some of the more higher ranked players who may not necessarily be used to that.
Yeah, like Federer or Nadal, who normally attract massive crowds, to them play, even when they're practicing, I never see people not watching them. So to them play in front of virtually no one, it must be really, really strange for them.
Yeah, absolutely. What goals have you set yourself as a tennis player?
So I just really want to see how far I can go. I'm just going to keep playing as many tournaments as I can and see how high I can get my ranking. And I'm looking at doing a master's in America, so kind of doing it the other way around for a lot of people, because I really do want that experience of going to America. A lot of my friends really are loving it out there, so to do that for a year or two would be nice.
And when you talk about rising up the ranks, what specifically do you think you need to do that?
So I had quite a lot of injuries over my junior career, so I think managing those is a big thing, because obviously having big periods out where you can't compete or train, it really damages your rankings, like all your points drop off, and obviously your confidence as well. If you're not playing as much, like other people are improving while you're kind of just in rehab. So managing those, and then also improving mental strength, because all the top players, they all hit really good forehands and backhands, but the people who are consistently like top 10 in the world are the ones that just play their best tennis in the highest pressure situation.
It's an interesting answer, really, because tennis is all about that pressure, getting that right shot, and it's very much, as I see it, as a game of chess kind of thing. You figure out your opponent on the other side, and then you've also got your own game strategy as well. But let's be honest, you're not just a tennis player, you're a student as well, and you're a tutor. You love your mathematics, and you also do park run. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I started like really getting into parkrun maybe 2 years ago, and it's a really good way to start your weekend. I think just kind of wake up, go to your local parkrun and see loads of different people from all different ages, all run a 5K, and then feel really good afterwards, and you just feel so much more productive for the rest of the day, I think. So I'd encourage anyone just to find where your local parkrun is and just go and do it, especially now. I think in lockdown so many more people have taken up running, so just to definitely find it, go do it. You'll never look back.
Did you ever do a marathon?
I actually have been thinking about it. I entered the Great North Run, so that's a half marathon, but I didn't get into that, so I'm going to kind of look to try and do maybe another half marathon, and then the dream would be to do the London Marathon. So yeah, we'll see.
I think I'll have to double check this, but I think Caroline Wozniacki, I think she did the New York Marathon.
I remember that.
Yeah, fascinating. So you do the two things that I dislike most in the world: running, because I'm more of a 100-meter sprinter. That was my thing when I was at school, and mathematics as well. I'm glad you like those two things. Okay, so finally, for you, Olivia French, you've talked about you want to work your way up the rankings, your love of mathematics and of student life, and you've also got a plan for the future post tennis.
Yeah.
Are you Are you on course to be who you want to be?
I'd like to think so, yeah. I think obviously over time your goals have to change to the situation that you're in, and you kind of have to adapt to what life throws at you. So, but I would just keep working hard and try and do the best that I can at everything, and hopefully I'll end up where I want to be.
Olivia, thanks so much for that, for your chat today, and also just, you know, fascinated about mathematics. I'm sorry you won't be able to convert me to love it, but I totally get it, why you do love it. And I wish you all the best for the future, and hopefully I will see you on court fairly soon.
Yeah, thank you. Nice talking to you.